Hi, everyone. My name is Andy McNeill. I'm the CEO and founder of American Meetings Incorporated. Most folks know us as AMI. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I am an out boss.
Hello, Out Bosses. Rhodes Perry here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Out Entrepreneur, a weekly podcast where I get to interview today's most inspiring LGBTQ bosses crushing it in business. And on this week's episode, I am really excited to introduce you all to Andy McNeill. So Andy, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Rhodes. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, it's great having you here. And Andy is from my home state of Florida, down in Fort Lauderdale. So hopefully you're enjoying some nice sunny weather right now.
We are right now. It's the calm before the storm. It's spring here, so it's really beautiful. It'll get really, really hot really, really soon.
Yeah. We'll send some of that nice weather our way out in Portland, Oregon. So a little bit about Andy, if you're not familiar with him, he is a travel and hospitality entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience. He is the CEO and founder of American Meetings, Inc., an industry-leading meetings and events agency that produces thousands of live and virtual meetings annually for Fortune 500 clients. He is also the co-host of the Destination Everywhere podcast. Yes, fellow podcast host here. And that is a top travel and hospitality podcast that highlights bucket list destinations, luxury hotels, local cuisine, and must-do activities. So Andy is a significant voice in the hospitality, meeting, and travel industries. And Andy, I am excited to talk with you today about dreaming about traveling again, because I have the itch, and it's been too long.
You and everybody else. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, why don't you kick us off by starting there, right? Like you've have 25 years of experience in the travel and hospitality industry. And what's the state of the industry right now? And just for context, like the last time I had someone on the podcast that was kind of from your field was literally the week before everything shut down in March of 2020. Yeah. So talk to me about where things are at right now.
Oh, man. Well, there's been, as everybody knows, because everybody's had to stay at home, there's been kind of a sea change in our industry. You know, we do B2B business, but both on the business and the consumer side, you know, travel effectively stopped. And, you know, we've seen this, you know, huge downturns before. We saw it, right after 9/11 for about a year. And then we saw it during the Great Recession back in 2008. And now we have this pandemic that has really changed our industry for good. And it's been changed. And we can't wait to get back out there. We actually got our first live meeting request a few weeks ago for June, and people are slowly getting out there. But there's no question this is going to take time, from large corporations being comfortable sending their employees back out onto planes and into hotels. But at the same time, there's also been a cultural shift in how you approach meetings travel, and meetings spend. And so we're working with our clients on that. On the consumer side, I think it's going to come back a lot faster. People are already traveling. They're already trying to get out there. You know, as soon as they get their vaccinations, they get that security back, and they want to travel again. So I think the consumer side is going to come back a lot faster than the business side.
Yeah, I think that. Thank you for the kind of the highlights there. And you know, I'm wondering, in your business, you know, with thinking about meetings, I imagine that you pivoted pretty quickly and trying to figure out all things related to having the best virtual experience. So what was that like for yourself over the past year of trying to reimagine how you do business, and how have you supported some of your clients?
You know, in 25 plus years of being an entrepreneur, it was the largest seismic shift I'd ever experienced, and the quickest, fastest, most jarring pivot we've ever had to do on anything. And we are very lucky that we did it early, and we did it hard, and we put all of our efforts into it. So to give you a little bit of context, you know, running thousands of meetings a year, live meetings, about 80% of our business, about 20% was virtual, to going to 100% virtual. So we shifted our entire business. Because of that, we actually grew, thank goodness, because there was an immense need for virtual, and we were prepared for that. But at the end of the day, you know, our clients weren't ready for it. No one was really ready for it, right? So we spent a lot of time educating our clients on virtual experiences, how you can make them better, stronger, more efficient, more secure, as we saw with some of the technology collapses that we had in the early parts of it. And we've got great partners on our software partners, Zoom, Intrado, and so many others that could help you do what you need to do, but you had to pick the right software as well. So it was a wild ride and we made it to the other side. Now we're trying to figure out how to bring everybody back into hybrid events, which are going to be the new norm, which are going to be, you're going to have a live meeting, but not everyone's going to be comfortable coming to that live meeting moving forward. So you're going to have a great virtual strategy as well as you hold that live meeting. So you might have 70% of your people there and 30% online. And we're prepping to be able to do that for our clients.
And how do you, I'm just thinking, in my own, so maybe this is a selfish question, I lead a lot of workshops and keynotes and things like that. So how are you coaching your clients around managing the natural human emotions, like the anxiety or the fears or the uncertainty of being together again? Because there's such power. I mean, you are the meetings guru, right? Like, the transformation that happens when people are in the same room or even online.
Well, there's nothing like, one-on-one human interaction. Mm-hmm. That's certainly how I grew my business. Most people grow their business, flying somewhere and meeting, a potential client or going to a trade show or a conference in your industry to, establish those relationships. It's always going to be part of it. You're not going to, we're social animals, we're social communities. That's not going to change. I think what is going to change is there's going to be plus. So you're going to always have those live meeting experiences, and then you're going to be able to support them with virtual as well. And sometimes virtual just makes sense, right? Either from a financial perspective or from the way the content's needing to be delivered. Just make more sense to do virtual. I think what COVID did was open up people saying, hey, I can do this online. Mm-hmm. I can still make money online. I can still do a major RFP without having to fly across the country. Mm-hmm. And so I think that has changed, and I think it has changed permanently. I don't think we're going to go back to where live meetings is just this juggernaut and, virtual's on the other side. It's actually going to be a much more even split.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for just giving us the temperature check on the industry. Going back, like zooming out. So you started American Meetings Inc. A while back, and you've been kind of in this entrepreneurial space for 25 years. So when did you start American Meetings, and why did you decide to start the business? Like, what was the big problem you were trying to solve at that time?
Yeah, great question. Well, I was coming from an organization that bought and sold companies in the investment banking world, and we were rolling up other event companies. And I was 29, 30 at the time, and I was looking at all these great entrepreneurs who are running these really dynamic, fantastic businesses and just killing it from a financial perspective. And being, the cocky 29-year-old, I'm like, if I don't do this now, I will never be successful. If I don't stop my corporate job and jump into the ring. But really the impetus was, and some of it had to be with coming out. I was in the closet, and I was right at kind of that process where I needed to make a decision like most of us do at some point. And I met the love of my life and my husband today and my business partner, Todd. And that was really the evidence, knowing that I had his support and being able to have the confidence to do it. Now, at the same time, usually, big changes follow, a cultural big change. And in this case, it was 9/11. So 9/11 happened, and we were rolling up these companies and looking at opportunities. And 9/11 happened, and the industry just got its legs kicked out from under it. For about a year, people didn't travel. If you remember, took a long time to get people back on airplanes back then. And so that is, a really important part of the meetings business. So I saw an opportunity there. I'm like, this is a great time to get into this space. I've learned from some of the best in the industry. I've met some of the best in the industry. I know what they're doing. And we opened AMI January 30th, 2002. So we'll be 20 years old next January. And, it's been a wild, crazy, fun, ecstatic, stressful, frantic, incredible ride.
So looking back, and congratulations on almost reaching the 20-year mark. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So like looking back over these past 20 years, what's like one thing, like where you're at today, going back to your younger self, that you couldn't even have predicted or imagined what could have been possible, like with your business and all of the doors that opened up as you kind of continued following the breadcrumbs and growing?
Well, when you're that age and you see people that are on the other side, you're like, God, if that person did it, I can certainly do it. I think flash forward 19 years later, here I am saying, boy, now I know what those folks went through. Mm-hmm. I know the ups and downs, that even if you have an incredible product and the best staff working for you and you focused on the things that matter, things get hit you that you just have no idea that they're ever going to hit you out of the blue, and you need to be able to pivot and adjust and grow. So, that's what I would go back and tell my younger self is, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it, because being my own boss, being able to make my own decisions from both myself, my teammates here at AMI, and my family has been the greatest gift in my professional career. Being my own boss, I think, is the best thing. And knowing that a lot of people try it, but then it doesn't work out, I really think you need thick skin, and you need to know that as bad as it can get, it's always going to get better, and you just got to stick it out. If you have the fortitude, you will be successful.
Yeah, you've got to really have that fire in your belly, and you also have to know why. Like every day you wake up, like, why are you doing this? And
it's one of our core tenets at AMI, and it actually came from what I constantly ask my team members is, we always ask why. We always ask, why is that happening? Why is that this expensive? Why are our customers acting like this? Why did that not go as good? You always ask why. And if you are one of those people that your mother said to you, boy, I had a question growing up, you're probably going to be an entrepreneur. You probably have some entrepreneurial blood in your stream, because I hear that a lot. We're the inquisitors, the visionaries. We're always saying, how can we do this better? And that's really the true characteristics of an entrepreneur.
I'm just laughing. As you said that about like your parents, I remember my mom got me a book when I was probably 7. It was called The Big Book of Tell Me Why. So I guess I'm in the right space with you.
For sure.
I want to go back to something that you had shared, back to your 29-year-old self. And you were talking about working inside of an investment bank, kind of like corporate life. And you're coming out, you're getting to know you're a part of who you are. Did you have like any challenge when you were in corporate life was that like maybe something that maybe held back exploring more around your sexual orientation and just like being able to say, hey, I'm.
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, I've always known I was gay. I know it's gay. I think I've tagged it to like age 4, not knowing what it was, but knowing, the feeling. And I think especially I was living in Dallas at the time and relatively conservative there, had great, fantastic friends who were completely supportive. And if I had the courage, like most of us, to come out earlier, it would have been a non-issue. But, listen, they're all friends, they know. But, at work, and we worked together, everyone was in the closet and you just didn't bring it up. There was this kind of fourth wall that you didn't cross over in that. And I do remember several people, coming out over those early parts of my career in my 20s, and always been like, why did they do that? And to think nowadays that I would even wonder why they did it, but they were just brave individuals that stepped out and had that confidence to do it. And listen, the second that I came out, it was a non-issue for everybody. And if it was an issue for some people, that's their problem, not mine. I never felt that it ever impeded me in any way, and actually worked to our advantage in a lot of ways. People feel comfortable that they know the whole you, and they want to support you. And we've definitely seen that in our personal lives, Todd and I, as well as in our professional lives. We've been incredibly blessed to be supported by so many people. I couldn't even start to name them, how incredible everyone's been.
I love that. Yeah, there's something about what you had said about other people being comfortable knowing exactly who you are, like the whole you. And I think there's something.
Well, they know you're holding, they can feel it. You can just feel when someone's holding something back. I think it's human instinct in a lot of ways. Yeah. And they talk about gaydar, right? Knowing people. I think there's the opposite, right? You kind of know that people are hiding something as well. Mm-hmm. It can be, their religious, preferences. It can be a number of things, but there's always something that you feel someone's not telling you the whole truth.
Yeah. And it creates that there's a static that compromises relationship.
There is.
Right? And like,
It does.
In business, relationships are everything, especially
It's trust, right?
Yeah.
It's all about trust. And if you're not being your whole self at work, how can you be trustful? And it goes everything from talking to your employees to talking to potential new team members to talking to potential clients. There have been some clients that I know that I have pitched and they just were not comfortable with that. Listen, okay, I would rather that not have the business and then be uncomfortable with it. That makes no sense for me or them. It's not going to make them successful.
Yeah.
And so while we don't wear our gay flag on our sleeve, we're certainly not quiet about it. And we have a huge supplier diversity program focused on our diverse certification. We have a very successful tier 2 program where we push down business to our minority, women-owned, LGBT-owned, veteran-owned, disabled businesses. And we think that's really, really important. So it's certainly not a secret, but it's something that, I'm glad that we're able to always have the conversation. And when those people have felt uncomfortable, I've been fine not working with them because we just don't think it's worth it. And it's, their issue, not ours.
So thank you. So there's 2 questions. I want to go back to the supplier diversity piece, but I'm going to put a pin in that now.
Yeah.
The first question I want to ask you is about your husband, Todd, and how do your husband and your business partner? So we've had a few other guests who have explored this with me, and I'd love for you to talk through how do you make that work, and what are, I would imagine, there's the advantages and the benefits way outweigh some of the challenges, but talk to us a little bit about the day in the life.
Well, I think the first initial benefit was being together. We met at the last company that I worked with. And so I left and to start AMI, and he stayed on and supported us for a couple of years while we got AMI off the ground. So having that support from individual standpoint, but when I needed intellectual capital and I couldn't afford it, Todd is one of those people that walks into a room and people give us business because he's that awesome of an individual. He has a kind heart that transcends every part of his life as a dad, as a business owner. But having that support and having a common goal is one thing that I think if you have a true partner, it's not for everybody. I can tell you that right now, straight or gay. It is not something to go in half-heartedly about thinking that just because you both like something or do something, you have to both have talents that benefit the business. And I've seen this a lot with other couples where one might be the true entrepreneur and the other one is more of a secondary entrepreneur, and that's okay. But as long as the goals are aligned, and Todd and I both knew what our skill sets were. I mean, I can sell all day long, every day. Todd is an incredible relationship guy. So he has a great eye for details and how to run a fantastic meeting. So those talents really came together in our case, and we were able to build a great company because of it. It wasn't easy. And the nights of, when all your eggs are in one basket, that's a pretty risky scenario. Mm-hmm. And there were some pretty sleepless nights every once in a while. But at the same time, there's always been some great benefit. And those benefits have greatly outweighed the risk or the challenges that we've had over the last 19 years.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a benefit when you love spending time with each other, right? And on top of that, the skill sets that just kind of, complete, you have the complete business there.
And but really understanding them. I know we both pushed each other in ways we may not have been comfortable over the years just because you had to.
Yeah.
But I think after a decade or so, you kind of go into your roles that really work. And, any company is an extension of their entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. The soul, the character, the ethics, everything comes from those owners and that's why so many great companies come from the LGBTQ community, because I think that we are a lot more open and able to absorb information in a different way and then, come up with those ideas and those products and those services that make a real beneficial difference for all companies. And I think we're a really special group from that perspective. So I think, as entrepreneurs, and Todd and I have been able to work together, and it's been a great ride, but certainly not without its challenges.
Yeah. And I think that feeds in nicely to talking about your supplier diversity strategy. So you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I know that this is a topic of interest for a lot of people who listen to the show. So as much as you can share that might help other people think about, I know there's something to this NGLCC certification, and I know I go to the conference every year, but I'm not quite sure about what those next steps are to like begin doing business with some of these bigger Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah, so supplier diversity, we met Keith Blackburn, who runs the Fort Lauderdale NGL affiliate here in Fort Lauderdale. And Todd came home one night, and I think he went to a networking event, and he said, "Hey, have you heard about, we can actually be certified as an NGLC certified business as a gay-owned business, and, corporations, like that. That's the new thing. It's called, supplier diversity." I'm like, okay, well, I think it's definitely worth it. And then we found out about the NGLCC conference. I think the first one we did was in Chicago or Dallas, like we're going back to like 2010. And we were looking for different ways to diversify our funnels of business. And we had kind of burned through all of our, we call them FOTs and FOAs here at AMI, friend of Andy's and friends of Todd's. And how we built our business. We had a nice, boutique agency, but had I ever been able to, pitch to, IBM or someone like that at that high a level and become kind of a market leader in our industry? And the simple question was no. There's no way to get in because, number one, you don't even know how to pitch correctly to those types of organizations, but you're not even in the sales funnel because you're not even on their radar. So, trying to get into a, large Fortune 500 company, Fortune 1000, where they have a diversity program that can actually pull you into that funnel is a great opportunity. And so you can be a very small fish in a very large pond sitting at the table and know that you have a chance of landing a contract. And I will tell you, we have landed multiple multi-million-dollar contracts over the last 10 years because of our diversity strategy. We can't thank Justin Nelson and his team enough. Justin is a huge advocate and someone that has supported our business in so many ways. And then those diversity officers who we consider almost an internal sales force out there. These folks champion diverse organizations all day long. That's what they get paid to do by their organization. And they have a true passion for what they do. Every single one of them I've met, we've been so impressed by. And so we learned how to do it. We knew that we could compete against the big guys. And when we went up against them, when we had a seat at the table, we usually won. Yeah. And the reason is because we not only had the infrastructure and everything that you need, the security that you need to run live and virtual meetings, we were nimble and we were able to make decisions and strategic offerings that larger organizations simply did either not have the time or the willingness to do to get the business. So being that scrappy, number 3 or 4 on that RFP list definitely worked to our advantage, and we've been able to benefit from that. And then we took that, and once we learned that and did that over numerous years, we developed our own diversity program here at AMI for suppliers that actually work with us in our Tier 2 program. And that Tier 2 program has just paid off in spades in so many ways. First of all, it's a very close-knit community of diverse certified business, women-owned, LGBT, minority, veteran, all of the, disability. And we've been able to bring those organizations with us because we are an organization that uses a lot of other contractors and suppliers to put on our events to be able to present something unique. And we've got great partners because of it. And we've built out that network over the last decade, and it's proven to be a huge key differentiator for AMI.
Yes, this is awesome. Thank you for being so generous and just kind of talking
that out. All day long. Anybody, if anybody ever wants to talk about how to develop that strategy. Now, I will tell you, we went full bore on this and invested money from year one. We've done everything from being an ongoing sponsor of the NGLCC to being a title sponsor of the conference to having a full-time person that's dedicated on that channel. So it is not easy and it takes a while. And you really have to know, just because you have a great product doesn't mean that every organization needs that product or doesn't already have another outstanding, vendor that's supporting that. So just because you get in and you get the RFP does not mean you're going to win it. And it really is a marathon in this business. But over time, we've developed a reputation in that space, and it's worked out to our benefit. But we still have our traditional channels on how we grow business as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And then my last question on this is just with learning how to pitch some of these bigger companies. It's not necessarily something that an entrepreneur learns, like even if you did go to business school, which many of us haven't, right?
Yeah.
So like how did you all kind of find both your voice and also kind of the art of pitching to some of these bigger companies?
So I think one thing you need to expect, you need to invest in your presentation skills and also your presentation. So if you're going up against somebody else in your industry, and a lot of times you don't even know who you're going up against, but you pretty much can guess that, hey, listen, I'm going to be competing against these guys. How are you going to compete? Well, first of all, you need to look like you are welcome to the party. And that means you need to have a pretty dress on. Your presentation needs to be well thought out. It needs to be strategic. It needs to be client focused, not company focused. And so I see this mistake. A lot of people who pitch to us all day long is they talk about them. And, that's great. Talk about yourself. However, you're not talking about what their needs are. So do your best to understand their needs and educate yourself on what the current needs are. I'll be amazed about how many people come and pitch us who know nothing about AMI. They have not even looked at our blog. They've never, looked on our Wikipedia page. They've never done anything to understand just the baseline things that matter to AMI. So it's really important to understand that and know that, because even if you don't have to be the biggest fish in the pond to win it, you have to be the most valuable to that company, saying, this company is going to support us in a way that no one else can, and really have those clearly defined in your presentation. And I guarantee you'll do well.
I love that. Yeah.
And then even when you're the best, and we've been told this, we've been told by procurement officers, Andy, you guys blew it out of the water. You knocked everybody else out. Your presentation, your pricing was better. There was an existing vendor we were trying to unlodge from that organization. And there just wasn't the stomach to do it for a variety of reasons. It might be just the champion inside didn't want to change, or maybe they were friends with the person, or who knows why it is. But sometimes your best still doesn't get you the business, which is frustrating, but that's why they call it business and not vacation, because it's work. It's work
Totally.
every day.
Yeah. And, even in those moments, as frustrating as they are, it helps you get more clarity around the value that you can provide. Your
value proposition really gets clarified in those RFPs.
Oh,
I'll tell you right now. Yeah. It really does. And there's questions that people bring up that in a million years, you would never wonder why that was important to them. But you now have that checked off for the next, you can answer that question
exactly.
the next time.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the value of learning. And if you look at it and pitch education as an education and as a process, and not that, I've walked out, and over time I've learned not to do this, is to think we've won the business or think we've lost the business, because you just don't know. And when we lose the business, it doesn't mean that your team, your salespeople, your marketing people, you did not do a great job. You still did a great job. You just didn't get the business, and it can be frustrating. And we've had more losses than wins, but at the end of the day, the wins definitely paid off.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I have been there. So it's nice to be on the other side when it's like, yes, we're ready to do business, and at the same time, I think sometimes in the RFPs that you don't win, that kind of feedback, when you're lucky enough to get it, that's the value, right, of going through the exercise itself.
Yeah, a lot of times it is feedback that you learn yourself, because a lot of times you don't get feedback from either the champion in tide or the procurement officer. Sometimes the diversity officer will step up and let you know what they heard, but they still don't know why you didn't get it. And so a lot of it is self-learned over time, and being able to talk the talk about you and just be the absolute expert that you can be, and what value you bring to that organization. That ultimately that's what matters.
Well, this is super helpful. Thank you again for kind of sharing your experiences with this. I would love to give you the opportunity to share a little bit about Destination Everywhere, the podcast that you've got going.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Yeah, that's been a fun project. We really are having a good time.
When did you get started, and kind of like what's the nature of the podcast? Like, where do you explore?
Absolutely. So Destination Everywhere came over the impetus that in our business, so in the meetings and events industry, 9 times out of 10, the reason someone comes to AMI or the initial impetus of any event is, where am I going to have it? Whether it's local or across the globe, where am I going to have that event? So that destination element is a big entry point for our industry. And so we were about to launch an everywhere campaign because AMI currently operates in 60 plus countries, doing events for our clients. We take our clients from wherever they are to wherever they want to be. And so we had started an everywhere campaign, and we had a digital book. We had an ongoing marketing campaign around it. And the next step around it was, how do we really launch this and really become a subject matter expert for our clients? What type of content can we do? In which way can we do it? And we just felt that podcasting was such a great way to do it, because it allowed Todd and I to really rely on our strengths, which we're both really good communicators, and we're both really passionate about travel. We love to travel. We've been all over the world. This has been such a great way for us to grow a business because we love to travel. And before Todd and I had our kids, who are now, we have boy-girl twins at 10, we traveled all the time, and we still travel quite a bit, but not as much before COVID. And then COVID hit, and we just thought it was the perfect opportunity to build the library and grow it over time. So when everyone's coming back and going back into live meetings, that we'd have the podcast there ready to go. And it's just been a lot of fun, and we're definitely experiencing places we've been again, and being able to go back to some of the best hotels and some of the best destinations. And then we put a little bit of a personal flair on it and talked about activities that we have done and bucket list items that we have done there to kind of round out the podcast. So it's been out since November of last year, and we're on our 30th episode, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. And we're growing fast. So we're excited to experience that. And we just think it's a great kind of adjunct marketing strategy for our core business. And that's why we did it.
Podcasting is a lot of fun, just in the conversations that you get to have.
Yeah, exactly. Like this one. This is great. I mean, being able to talk outside of this is not about our podcast today, but it definitely will benefit us by, being able to talk about that here today. So I think, if anybody wants to do a podcast, first of all, I don't need to tell you, it's a lot of work. Not only, developing the content, but developing the subscribership, editing and producing it. It all takes a lot of work, but it is a great medium and one we really enjoy.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very rewarding. And all of the work aside, when you're able to engage in conversations around a particular topic, you get to go so much deeper than I think. Definitely if you're writing a blog, you just conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
They go in really unexpected ways. And even for the host, I know for myself, I walk away with an aha every time I have an episode. It's like, I'm able to think about this particular topic in a new way, even though this is almost the 200th episode, right? So just kind of keep following that, like 30 episodes in.
Oh, you're my hero, 200. Yeah. I can't wait to get to 200. That's
you'll
amazing.
get there. Yeah, you'll get there. Especially like it's a topic you love. You'll definitely get there.
Absolutely. And that's one thing we found is, Todd and I both have a passion. We've been to over 100 countries together. We know the best places to go. This is just ingrained in what we do because we've been doing it for 25 plus years each. And so we're able to bring that to our guests and most importantly, bring it to our clients when they ask us, hey, where would be a great place to have this meeting? We can turn them to that podcast and say, we'll consider this one.
Yeah, it definitely saves a little bit of time of like, start here and then let's have a conversation. Just this is probably a difficult question for you because you love traveling so much. Like, if it was on the top 5, like what's one destination that immediately comes to mind right now, where you're like, I wish I was there? Like what's one of those destinations?
Oh gosh, there's so many. One place I've been over and over again is Ireland. I think with Ireland, you get so much. First of all, you get a small, easy country to get around. But I think if you talk to anybody that's traveled anywhere, what really makes the difference? And I think it's always the people. It's always the people that embrace you and bring you into their culture. And Ireland just does that. I mean, every time I've been, everyone's been so warm. and so beautiful. And then, the different times of year you can go and what you can experience from, the beautiful summers to the gorgeous falls. And then, hey, listen, a rainy Dublin and lots of pubs to go to is not a bad thing to do in March on St. Paddy's Day, which I've done. So as probably one of my favorite trips there. So I love Ireland. I always recommend it. It's an easy lift from the East Coast of the United States. Not so much from Central and West, but you can still get there in a relatively short amount of time. It's no different than going from, I tell my clients, it's no different from going to New York to Hawaii. It's the same distance, just the other direction. So I love Ireland. We just recently did an episode on Lake Como, the area in Italy, which is a huge tourist area. And there are some incredible new hotels going there, a lot of high-end contemporary for just a really special experience. It's one of the most beautiful lakes I've ever been on, and just really, really creative. And so I would recommend that to anybody, anytime, for business or pleasure. And actually not too hard to get to. It's a little out of the way, but not so out of the way. But just, one of those places is just breathtaking, and you just can't get enough of it when you're there. So those are two that are top of mind right now, and some two.
It's so interesting you said both of those destinations, because I'm starting to do some of my own ancestor work, and Ireland and Italy are two of those places where I'm like, I got to go to kind of dig in a little bit deeper around that. So yes, really great recommendations there. So kind of rounding out the interview, I have a question for you around just thinking about your own lived experiences of being a part of the broader Rainbow family. Some of those lived experiences that you can think of that allows you to stand out in your business. Like, what might be one or two? I call them, our Rainbow superpowers, but just, what's one that comes to mind where, like, because of this experience of being gay, this is why my company is just able to outcompete or outshine, or, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I think it's really, authenticity is kind of an over said word nowadays, but just being authentic in who you are and being confident in that. I mean, everything from Todd and I's work with Family Equality Council to the Human Rights Campaign to the NGLCC is just being out there as a beacon to other businesses and other individuals, that it's okay to talk about it and be there. Just having that confidence to do that gives other people confidence to do it. And knowing that, today there's still homophobia out there. There's still, prejudice. There's still that people being uncomfortable in their own skin as an LGBTQ individual. Just know that, get out there and be there, because, there's a lot more support out there than there is not support. And you will find that out very, very quickly. So having that confidence and speaking out wherever you have the opportunity to the platform, I just think is really important, and gives other people confidence and gives people an opportunity to see how it can be done.
Yeah. I mean, when you're able to, to create space, and in what you're doing in the company that you're building with your husband, I mean, that's a possibility model for so many young people in your area in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, I know growing up in Florida myself, like it was, I mean, I grew up in the Space Coast, not Fort Lauderdale, but it was hard to see, LGBT people.
It was hard back then.
An interesting study I found in the state of Florida, the highest percentage, and this was a couple of years ago, so it might be different, of same-sex couples raising kids was actually in Brevard County. And I was just thinking about that. I was like, that was my home county. And it wasn't, there wasn't a whole lot of visibility. So, the fact that you all are there, you're building a really successful business, and you're able to just lead with, being two gay men who are married and having a successful company, that's powerful. And it may feel like, I'm just being myself. And at the same time, we're in a world where we still have to kind of do some education for folks that may not have relationships with us, and you're doing that every day. That's business. Business is all about relationships.
Yeah. And I think, and it's I think really exciting is what's happening behind us, or for the younger generations coming up now. They are living in a world that, is going on, 7-8 years with marriage equality. Adoption is a commonplace now. Fostering is commonplace now. And owning a business out is open place now. That is So just imagine all these talented young individuals who want to be entrepreneurs that will have the confidence to do it. And hopefully we'll have the confidence to do it because they don't have labels. They're growing up in a blind free world when it comes to labels. And so I think, what we can expect from the next generation of entrepreneurs is truly going to be inspiring.
Yeah. And the younger generations are already in the workforce. And when I go to a sip and pitch that NGLCC runs, to see younger folks just jumping into entrepreneurship, it's accessible in ways that I think even 20, 30 years ago was a little bit different, right?
And I just can't say enough about the NGLCC. Yeah. I think the world of them. I think one thing I noticed, so their networking has always been best in class, but their educational component across the spectrum, what they're doing online to what they do at their conference, you need to go to the NGLCC conference. It is, first of all, it's a lot of fun. Second of all, it's extremely educational and it's incredible networking. So I would highly recommend that to anybody because it gives you a community to grow up through and in and educate you and fast track you to where you want to be. We had been in business for probably 8 years before we met the NGLCC. We're about the same age. AMI and the NGLCC are about the same age. I wish I had been there from day one and just so grateful for all the great work they've done.
Yeah, they're incredible. And I think I was in DC at the time when they were just getting started. I was like, this is amazing. It's so needed. And what they've been able to accomplish in almost 2 decades has been unbelievable, and I think, it really has. So when you think about, this younger generation of entrepreneurs, what's some advice that you could have benefited from when you think of your younger self that you would like to offer right now for those folks?
I think one thing that I did a little bit, but it didn't do as much as I think I should have now that I'm doing it for other people is find a mentor and not only find one mentor, but find several mentors because not just because you have a mentor doesn't mean that was a good mentor. So I think over the course of time, you should actively look to people you like and respect, people who are in your industry or have a specific talent that you're trying to develop. There are so many people out there that are willing to help. And I think a lot of people are afraid to ask. But if I would do something differently, I definitely would try to use someone else's experience to fast track my journey. And though I did a little bit of it, I wish I had been a little bit more open to some of the opportunities I probably could have taken advantage of.
That is great advice. And it's advice, as you're saying, I'm like, oh, yes, I still feel that way now. It's like there's some people who are definitely mentors and, you can never have enough, I think. Well, maybe you could. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to spend all of your time with mentors. You got to run your business too. This has been awesome.
Yeah, you're awesome. Thank you for putting this podcast together. I mean, I've been a listener for years, and it's just such a positive, uplifting podcast for our community, and one that I think so many people have gotten a lot out of over the years. Because I know I've listened for years and years and years. It's just good to hear other people in your same shoes and kind of hear their thoughts out loud and go, okay, I'm not crazy. I am able to do this. And they're having the same challenges that I have, whatever those may be.
Yes. Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate that. It's kind of a gift that I'm trying to give back because so many people within our communities have been so kind and generous to me. And, and hopefully that's a message for anyone who's tuning in. We're here.
It is an incredibly supportive community. Absolutely. It really is. Everyone's always open to helping.
Yes. Well, thank you for contributing and helping so many folks listening now. Before we go, I just want to give you the opportunity. Where's the best place where you'd like people who are listening right now to go to learn a little bit more about what you're doing in the world of business?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to americanmeetings.com. And if you want to listen to the podcast for Destination Everywhere, you can just go to americanmeetings.com/podcast. And then if you want to friend me on LinkedIn, I'm always trying to expand my network and would love to hear what you're doing and what great products and services you have out there for AMI. So please hit me up on LinkedIn.
Right on. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, we will include both of those links for sure and the podcast in our show notes. So definitely check that out at outentrepreneur.com. And Andy, thank you for inspiring all of our listeners today. It was so great having you.
Thank you. It was a great opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Yes, likewise. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening right now, keep showing up as authentically as you want in work and life. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care.